So today we're going to write code, and maybe from tomorrow is when now we can work with some notebook files that are uploaded. If we are together, then let's talk about variables. So we define variables in the quantitative analysis as attributes that someone is interested to understand further. Same principle applies, but will not be variables as variables, but instead I would want you to envisioning something like objects. And this is because languages like Python operate on what we call object-oriented programming. So it means you'll be playing around with those objects that you create, and these objects are the ones which are going to contain the attributes or entity that you are trying to find a thing or two about them. So I think that's the idea behind data analysis. So of course, like I said, uh, traditionally Python was not maybe used a lot by data science guys. It was more of programming and developing applications and so forth. But now we're bringing the into now the language of Python. It's not Python. I think we have R, we have Julia, we have uh, even other language like I'm not so sure if it's a language, but you can use even Java or JS. But yeah, it depends with levels of complexity. So let's talk about variables. And you said Python is a high level language, which means it's a language that is closer to human logic. So if you want to assign so let's talk about, of course, we print hello world and then we maybe pick it up from there. So how do we execute uh, codes? So first we said we will have to practice a good coding habit, whereby you'll have to comment, which is basically a brief description of what your code is supposed to do. So let's print hello world. I think we try to do this. So this one is a comment, and you say comment an instruction that a software can be able to understand, but you're not expecting any error or the software to return anything to you. So for instance, if I execute this code from here, then I'm not expecting any error. Okay. And the reason why I'm not getting any error is because the software already understands what I'm supposed to do. So like I said, I think we define a code as either a command or a comment. So if you comment, it means the software will just understand that that line is not an instruction that is supposed to interpret and return something to you, but instead it will only it's supposed to explain what your command is actually supposed to do. So what is the code that you can use for that? So you can see I've already executed that. It has taken 0 seconds and nothing has been displayed, but not even an error. That means we're in the same page with my computer. So what will be the comment? The command will now be print. Then of course this is Python 3, so you'll have your text enclosed in a parenthesis, and then now you can say hello world. I think that this is standard for anyone who is introducing themselves into programming. And remember now we'll start talking about function. So what is this print? Print are function. And I think I insisted this during quantitative analysis. I don't know if it was Excel, but the journey of understanding this world starts with creating functions. That's why we have languages like maths. Maths is a precise way of communicating. Hope we are in the same page there. And when you say precise way of communicating, is the same way as Python. And the language, and now when you're dealing with computers, you have to be precise with what you're communicating. And maybe in a nutshell, we're just saying we're existing in an objective world. And softwares like Excel, Excel, the reason why it was very powerful is because it came with thousands and thousands of functions. So if you recall when you're working with those functions, things like sum, pages, that we didn't create functions. Like that has a lot of function in it. Now, the beauty of Python as a language is it comes with built functions, but at a later stage, I will also to create so that any entity within the object as well. Those are reasoning action. So the one is just a text with a print, and there you go. You should be expecting some output result. So remember I said when you're using Google Colab, you should be connected to the internet. So that means even your own processes and the code you're writing, I think it will become part of Gemini. And I talked a lot about Gemini as a large language model. So we're also contributing towards development of Gemini. And I think the last time I checked, I told you guys Gemini had surpassed GPT, or I don't know, GPT Mike, yeah, I think it's GPT-4. I'm not sure. So also these languages they tend to learn. So I think as much as you're just writing codes here, you should know what is it. Maybe in future you'll even start out uh, compensation for your contribution. And apart from that, I think you're already being compensated. I think that's another thing that Google might even make themselves, because they donate some GPUs. Okay, I think I mentioned that right now, if you want to train models, and now you'll scale and do maybe huge projects under machine learning, then you'll need those graphics processing unit for you to train your machine. So I think I've already executed that. So let's define some, what do you call it? Some variables. Let's define some variables. Let's define some variables. So in as far as executing your code, you can either shift enter, which we said that now will enable you to create a new cell. Now you can proceed and write other commands. Okay. But if you just execute using Control Enter, I think you can try this using Jupyter if you're using Jupyter. Whether you say now for Control Enter, you just execute that line of code, but there will be no other new line that will be able to enable you to generate another code. The beauty of Colab, you can see you can even generate code with AI. That's why I said where we're going, we will not even be. It will not be like business as usual. You see, like right now, the beauty is if you're a programmer, you get paid for maybe writing code. But now you can be replaced, because now if I know what type of task I want to do, I don't need necessarily to cram all the code. So I can just instruct Gemini generate a code for me. That's why you see the option actually of generate code with AI, which is really interesting, and it should open your eyes on how you are learning these classes. More so with the idea that if you have been paying attention on how these classes are organized, the day I'm not appearing to class is not the day that you are idle. Because my friend, you're looking at, I think this is our time, this era we are at the moment, and we call it now the fourth industrial revolution, whereby now, if you look at those pioneers, the likes of Gemini, I think I'm really trying to stress a lot on this area. They already have Gemini. Let me use that word. In Africa, what do we have? And that, so to put it into context, they already have the entire internet as a data set. So what new are you bringing to this world? So right now, a very second that I'm not with you, then it's high time that you dig, you do your research, you find out what is this world of data science exactly are we talking about. And let's now talk about variables. So we said Python is a high level language. So if I want to define a variable, so for instance, I want to create an object X, and I want to assign an element into that object X, whereby I say the element to be assigned in element X is, let's have an integer 5. So what are we learning here? We're talking about assignment function. So equal sign in this case, you're assigning an element. I think we'll also talk about what you're using that sign. Does it mean the same thing as when we use double equal sign maybe in status. But now here you understand you have, so maybe we said we need to comment so that you know what we're doing. Of course, hashtag, and then I can say creating variable variables. So the variable that I'm going to create, let me start with them. So it's an X, and I want to assign element 5 to that object. And if I execute that, then an object has been created, but now I'm not able to see anything because I've not instructed the software that can you show me what that element is. So if you want to see the element of your variable that you've just created, then you have to call that object. So call it, you just write the name of that variable, and if you execute that, you, you see you're getting an output of 5. So you have created an object with an element 5. So let's learn something else. If I write, so the two approaches of going about this to be connected to the internet for you to use Google Colab because it's more of an extension to your Google Drive. But if you don't have internet, then you should have Jupyter. And where do you get Jupyter? Let's do this. Let me maybe. So if you go to, I'm not so sure which screen I'm. Just a minute. So if you go to your Anaconda, and then you open your Anaconda. Yeah. Okay. So this is the interface once you open your Anaconda, and now you need to use to launch Jupyter. So of course, Jupyter is what do you say? A user client server. It basically means it will use your browser as an interface for you to write your code. So as you can see, I already have a browser open, and now you can either upload or write from scratch. That is good. For you guys today, I said what? All of us, let's write some code. So if you write computer, you from here, the Python 3 kernel. Of course, or Python. I don't know if you are there's someone who's interested with Python 2. So if you're a bit older in this programming language, because I'm not so sure about you, but maybe you let me know. You can, if you're fond of Python 2, then select Python 2. If you are fond of Python 3, which now that is where we are, then select Python 3, and then you realize you will have now another tab whereby now you can be able to do the same. So if you are to print hello world, think just hashtag and then comment that you want to print hello world. So the only thing, the beauty of Colab, I think, is some of the things I was explaining now about machine learning, artificial intelligence, and so forth. As you can see, for Jupyter, it's just a graphic user interface whereby you can write your code. It doesn't come with a lot of things to do. But Jupyter is, I think, one of the favorite for most programmers right now because it's simple and straightforward. So what will be the code for that? I will just say print. And then, of course, since it's Python 3, you have to introduce parentheses. For Python 2, I think you would have just introduced your text, as long as it's enclosed in a speech box, it should have been good to go. But Python 3, everything should be in parentheses. So I'll say hello world. The same way of execution, if you control enter, you realize I've executed that code, but there's not a new line whereby I can continue writing my code. So I would prefer to use shift enter. And with shift enter, you can realize now there's a new line whereby now I can say, okay, about I create an object X, equate X element 5. But you say you start by comment. Good. So you can, what we're doing, creating variable. Okay, this is not good. The drill. I think I'm feeling like annoying. So creating variables, and then you say what? Now we are assigning an element 5 to an object X. If I execute that, I'm doing my own thing here. So, of course, I said if you execute that, you're not getting an error or anything because the software understands you have just created an object. But maybe if your objective was to see what the element of that object, then you have no choice but now to call it. So you can say X, and once you call X, it should be good to go. So let's learn something else. If I adjust that and I maybe use a lowercase x, and that means I'm assigning the element 5 to now an object x, and then I get an line of code. So I'm creating a deliberate situation where I want to use a lowercase x instead of second here. I said, let me create an element y. So y is a caps, and I'll assign today an element maybe 4. That means if I want to see 4, I have to call it. And if I now use log x and execute an error here, that was made to define y or was that smart. Okay. So first of now using something that not be facing a challenge. Now, how do you call? So first to take or be able to see element of the object, you call that. The second way you can print, so maybe see y element of the y, then you print, of course, commands are lowercase, so you cannot have command in uppercase.